For example, the ones that assist medical staff in their daily routine, the ones that actually support hospital processes, or even systems that generate claims and care plans. But I'm not here to discourage you from using the AI. I just want to show that by using proper engineering techniques and approaches, impact of AI hallucination can be minimized or nearly eliminated before it affects the clinical judgments, before it reaches the clinicians. And before we dig into the roots of the problem, let me briefly tell who we are. My name is Marina Chernik. Thank you for the introduction. And I'm working at ScienceSoft. ScienceSoft company is an IT engineering company that's been on the market for 37 years, and 21 years it's successfully delivering healthcare projects, healthcare solutions for the clients all over the globe. Now let's get back to our topic. Here is something to think about. Did you know that 92% of clinicians face AI hallucination in clinical tools personally, and 85% of those clinicians, the same clinicians, claim that those hallucinations could cause harm to their patient's health. Moreover, 18% of AI-assisted discharge summaries has issues that actually, I'm not talking about typos, I'm talking about the serious stuff like non-existent allergies or medications or omitted diagnosis or mixed up diagnosis, and the list goes on. That's all a clear call to action. We have to do something to make sure that we can still use AI and we can protect patients from the harm that may be actually brought by those hallucinations. Let's first define what the AI hallucinations are and how they appear in the first place. So, AI hallucinations, in very simple words, AI hallucinations, in very simple words, are the incorrect output generated by AI. Hallucination happens because large language models do not know things the way humans do. There are no databases, there are not knowledge bases. The objective of LLM training is simple. It's supposed to predict next token based on everything that came before. And that's exactly what they do. They learn how to do that by analyzing billions of sample texts, extracting patterns, adjusting internal parameters to make sure that it produces the most plausible prediction. This actually is the main cause of the hallucination. It's not the deterministic process. It's statistical. It's a statistical process. So hallucinations may appear in many different formats. If there is a pattern that clearly indicates that something should be populated, but it's missing, AI may add something statistically acceptable, which is incorrect for the current patient. Like for the missing allergy, it may populate the missing field with or empty field with the most statistically possible allergy. Sometimes it may retrieve all the facts correctly, but cannot make a proper decision based on those facts, demonstrating reasoning chain error hallucination type. It may skip or ignore crucial facts, which is the critical omission type of hallucination. It can combine old and new data in unpredictable manner, which is a typical example of silent merging. Luckily for us, AI hallucinations are not unsolvable mysteries. It's an engineering problem. And we have to do something. We have to design an architecture that can catch and prevent and handle this hallucination before it affects before it affects clinical judgments and your patients. So, to address nearly all hallucination types, we can use so-called multi-agent verification method, which is actually an implementation or AI version of the well-known 4I principle. Let's see how it's put in practice. We have a patient with the following symptoms. Here is this man was admitted for the chest pain, left side neck and arm pain, and the primary agent, looking at those symptoms, actually concludes that the suspected diagnosis is cervical G and recommends to use pain management. When the second agent comes to play, it sees the same symptoms but comes to a totally different solution. It suspects ACS and recommends to enable emergency protocol right away. So, what do you think? Which option, which scenario should be delivered to clinician? Anyone? Basically, the answer is none. It should be escalated. So the human needs to step in and make a proper decision based on the knowledge they have. We cannot trust AI with this decision maker. It cannot make decision on behalf of the clinician in this situation. What else can we do? We can actually bring in clinical rule engine. So how it works? Imagine that you have a patient with bacterial infection and the AI recommends to use amoxicillin to treat this condition. Sounds reasonable, right? But what clinical rule engine will do, it will verify the class of antibiotics and actually will block the recommendation because there is a penicillin allergy in charts for these patients. It will not be delivered directly to clinician. It requires escalation, and the human actually needs to review and make a proper decision. There is one more method to minimize hallucinations. Let's see how it will deal with the patient with anemia. AI suggests to treat the anemia with the iron supplement. Reasonable? Why not? Let's see what the scoring system thinks about this recommendation. It actually retrieves data and analyzes it against the internal mechanism. The source coverage is actually scored quite low, in the middle. So the reason for that the AI was able to retrieve almost every chart, but the most recent lab work is 2 months old. So it's not the full picture. It scores quite well source agreement. That's because the retrieved sources are in agreement with the condition and how it should be treated. Extraction clarity. System was able to retrieve multiple nodes with the hemoglobin readings that are contradicting each other. So that's why the scoring is quite low. And the last criterion here is the recency alignment. 2 months old for the last lab is too much to make a proper decision, so it scores it slow. Then scoring system applies weights. Basically, it's configurable coefficients that indicate which criterion is more important for our case. So if you would take a look, in our case, source agreement is rated higher than, for example, recency alignment. And when the system calculates the final score, it goes set down, 0.68. It's lower than the threshold that is set for medication recommendation, which is set for 0.485. And this recommendation, even though it's reasonable and looks correct, will not be directly delivered to the clinician. It should be escalated, and the human needs to take care of this recommendation, making sure it's correct. For those who think how it can be applied in your cases, I have some good news. the entire mechanism is fully customizable. Every institution can pick their own criteria to evaluate a decision against, all the coefficients and the threshold that actually fits your risk tolerance and business needs. Clinical records are in disagreement all the time. It's not because they're incorrect, it's because of the time. For example, you have a patient who was admitted on Monday with suspected AFib, and by Tuesday this diagnosis was ruled out by the cardiologist. So what the AI should do? Should it pick one over another? Both records are there, both are in charts. They're all correct, they're all written by the specialist, but they disagree to each other. So what the AI should do? You probably already picked up the pattern, right? It should surface both records, timestamp them, indicate where it came from, so attribute this data source, and escalate it to the human, making sure that the human can make a proper decision. But it's not a blind decision. It should be surfaced, highlighted. It's supposed to support decision making, the human decision making. And probably the last mechanism I want to mention here, which is not directly related for AI hallucination prevention, but it's a legally required. It's a legal requirement under HIPAA and FDA requirements. Every system that creates, edits, modifies clinical electronic records should maintain a mutable audit trail. So every AI pipeline step should contribute a record to this log, clearly indicated who did what, when, and what was the outcome. So basically, this audit trail allows afterwards to restore the full picture of what is happening and why the decision was made. All the mechanisms I just mentioned, all put together in 4-layer output verification architecture. I just will briefly walk you through them, will not overwhelm you with the information.